Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I have another card to share with you for the current Lawn Fawnatics challenge. Here is my card. It's a Peter Pan themed card and I've done it so that it looks like Peter Pan is looking through a keyhole at Tinkerbell who's stuck in the drawer. It was always one of my favourite scenes as a kid, I'm not sure why. I think maybe it was just funny watching Tink try to get out. So here I am showing what I did in Cricut Design Space to design the background of my card. These are all the pieces that I used. The white piece is the size of my card base, and the rest of the pieces I'm going to be cutting out of different coloured cardstock. I did change the colour of my ground, but the rest I kept the same. This was really simple. I made this mostly just out of shapes in Design Space. Just some ovals, some circles, squares, and just sized them to what I needed. There was a tiny bit of slicing involved for the keyhole. Once that was done, I set my machine to cut it out. And here is what all those pieces look like once they're cut out. A lot of the stamped images I'm using today are the Lawn Fawn fairies and some of the stamps from Sewn with Love. I remember that in this scene, Tink had a thimble stuck on her head, so I thought it would make her hold the thimble, and there were things like thread and buttons in that drawer as well. So this set was perfect to set this little scene. Here I am just stamping everything out. I stamp everything twice so that my images are nice and clear. Once I'm done there, I'm going to start colouring. As always, I'm using a mix of my Copic markers and just my cheap alcohol markers. I made a slight alteration to this little fairy, drawing on tiny shoes. I nearly forgot that Tink has tiny green shoes. I'll leave you with just a little bit of music as I finish colouring these in. Time to move on to my background. So for my floor or ground, the base of the drawer, I'm going with white. And I'm just using some excess grey ink off one of my blending tools and a wood grain stencil. And that just gave it enough texture so that it wasn't plain white. For the keyhole, I'm going around the edges to give it some texture. This didn't really work out as I wanted it to because my brush had too much ink on it already. And even though I was grabbing ink from a little ink pad, it just wasn't showing up. So I'm happy that there's texture there, but it wasn't quite what I'd hoped. I'm then also going to splatter some brown ink all over the top. And then I'm going to pop my floor down and sprinkle some of my gold watercolour pigment all over. I feel like this kind of looks a little bit like fairy dust. On to assembling Peter's little face, and as I was playing with this, I couldn't help but feel like he looks like Elmo. These big beady eyes, there's just something funny about it. But when I designed him, I knew he kind of had to look cartoony to fit the feel of the card. So here I am assembling his eyes, sticking on his little nose, and deciding where to put him so that he fits behind the keyhole. For Peter's bright orangish red hair, I used the Lawn Fawn stitched wave dies to kind of get something that looks like a fringe. I used that die to cut some orange cardstock, and then I just played around with the position of it until I was happy with how it looked. I then glued everything into place. Forget Peter Pan, this guy was starting to look like Beaker from the Muppets. I really wanted to add a bit of texture and some more dimension to this card. So on these tiny little, I think they're called bobbins. I'm not very good with sewing and sewing materials, so please forgive me if I got that wrong. But I wanted these little spools. Is that the right one? I'm sure someone will be kind enough to correct me in the comments. I'm going to cover these with some Lawn Fawn twine, and I've got the perfect colours to match my colour scheme because I have quite the collection of Lawn Fawn twine now. It's just adorable. It is a little bit on the stiffer side though, so it was a little bit of effort to wrap this around and have it stay in place. So I did have to put a fair amount of glue on the back so that it wouldn't unravel itself. I did this with the yellow and the teal. And after I glued up the back, I let it sit overnight so that it could dry properly. Here is the back of my card front. I have just used some kids adhesive craft foam to go around the entire keyhole. This will give the card just a bit more dimension. It will have this layer sitting away from Peter's face, but his nose will be flush with this, so it looks like his little nose is pressed up against the keyhole and his face is a little bit further back. Before sticking that down, I needed to put some double-sided tape on the back of Peter's face and stick that down first. I then removed the backing to the double-sided tape on the drawer/keyhole piece and glued that into place too. Once that was done, it was then time to set my little scene with all of these adorable stamped images. For these, I used a mix of just plain PVA glue to stick them flat, or some double-sided foam squares for a little bit more dimension. I was really unsure of what to put on this card for a sentiment, and I did a really dangerous move. For the last step of this card, I decided I was going to emboss directly onto the front the words "Make a Wish." I thought that this would be sweet for maybe a birthday card. This sentiment is a little bit versatile, so it's really up to, I guess, your imagination what kind of events or occasions it could be used for. But yeah, I decided to emboss in gold powder directly onto the front so that it would match the gold shimmery splatters that were already there. And here it is, my card is complete. It's kind of a simple one, but it had a few cool steps using my Cricut to design the background as well. I really hope you like this card. I thought it would be fun to add to the challenge that's happening right now. If you did enjoy it, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I'd love for you to stick around to see what on earth I come up with next. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.